Greetings of the day to all the viewers. Welcome to Bangla Shikha Classroom, an endeavor of Paschim Bongo Samogra Shikha Mission, Department of Education, Government of West Bengal. I am Dr. Ivy Sarkar, Headmistress, Srirampur Girls High School, and today the lesson that we are going to learn is for class 11 semester 2 examinees, that is My Last Touches by Robert Browning. So now let's start. We are going to do analysis of My Last Touches by Robert Browning. You know this is a presentation from Bangla Shikha Classroom. So let's move on to the first slide. Now, Robert Browning, he was a Victorian poet, and you know, at first he started writing drama. He was very fond of writing drama, composing drama. He was not that successful in writing drama, and then he tried his hand in dramatic monologue, a new genre of poetry. And he perfected dramatic monologue, and he was immensely successful in writing dramatic monologues. So this particular poem, My Last Duchess, is one of the finest specimens of dramatic monologues. So let's first know what is a dramatic monologue. What is a dramatic monologue? Now, the word monologue is a combination of two words, mono and logos. Mono means single, logos means speech. So it is a single speech by a single speaker. Now students, you have to know this very well. What is a dramatic monologue? What is a dramatic monologue? How is the poem My Last Duchess a dramatic monologue? In your exam, you can get a question of 6 marks, a long question, or any short SAQ type questions of 2 marks based on this point. That is, what is based on this concept or the genre of poetry, because this is very, very important, dramatic monologue. Now, dramatic monologue is a type of poem, is a genre of poem where an entire drama can be seen in a poem. So, in one poem, an entire drama is encompassed. This is a dramatic monologue. Now, there are some specific features of a dramatic monologue. Let's know them properly. What are the features of a dramatic monologue? As I told you, the first one is there will have to be a single speaker uttering a single speech. Monologue. So, mono means single. So, monologue, single speech by a single speaker. You can see here it is a single speech. So, the first feature of a dramatic monologue is, see, it is a single speech uttered by a single speaker. Second feature, there is a silent listener. Very important is silent listener. Silent listener whose presence can be felt from the words of the speaker. What does this mean? Suppose now I am a single speaker uttering a single speech. Do you understand this? And you are listening to what I have been saying? Now, from my words, as I am telling, you are listening, that means there are some you. Somebody is there or some people are there who are listening. So, from my words, it can be understood that there are some silent listeners or listener. So, whenever there is a silent listener whose presence can be understood from the words of the speaker, then that becomes one of the major features of a dramatic monologue. So, for a dramatic monologue, what I said, there has to be a single speaker uttering a single speech. Secondly, there has to be a silent listener. Somebody must be listening. And how will we understand that somebody is listening? From the words of the speaker. In this dramatic monologue, My Last Duchess, we will find that single speaker is the Duke. He is the Duke of Ferrara. And he is speaking to a silent listener who is a messenger or an envoy from a count. So, from the words of the speaker, Will you please rise? Sir, from these words, we can understand that there is a silent listener. Coming to the third feature of the dramatic monologue. The speaker utters the speech at a dramatic moment of his life. Now see, here I am a single speaker giving out a single speech, and you are the silent listener. But is this any dramatic moment of my life? No, perhaps. It is not that it is upon this demonstration or upon this class my future is depending, my career is depending, my teaching profession is depending. So, this is not a dramatic moment of my life. So, it cannot be a dramatic monologue. Whatever I am stating here, that cannot be a dramatic monologue. So, to be a dramatic monologue, the speaker must be at a dramatic moment of his life, an important moment, a moment of crisis, a significant moment. So, that is something very, very important. Now, the fourth feature of a dramatic monologue. To be a dramatic monologue, one of the essential characteristics is that the characteristics or character of the speaker must come out from the speech. Now, again, if I cite this example, I am a speaker, here a single speaker giving out a single speech. You people are the listeners. Suppose this is a very important moment of my life. I have got this chance here to speak, and on this depends my career. Suppose this is a very, very dramatic moment of my life. Still, will this be a dramatic monologue? No, because this is not revealing my specific individual character traits. To be a dramatic monologue, the most essential factor is this, that the character of the speaker must be revealed. Character of the speaker must be revealed. So, we are coming to the fourth point. The speech should essentially bring out the character of the speaker. This should be revealed. Character of the speaker should come out from the speech. Now, finally what we have is this: a speaker and a poet should not be identified as the same person. What do I mean by this? Suppose you read Upon Westminster Bridge. So, upon Westminster Bridge, we know the poet and the speaker, they are the same person. Sometimes we say the speaker says this, sometimes we say Wordsworth said this. So, Wordsworth and the speaker both were same. So, that is not a dramatic monologue, that is a dramatic lyric. Now, for a dramatic monologue proper, the speaker and the poet cannot be identified as the same person. যে কবি এবং যে বক্তা দুজনকে যেন কখনোই এক ব্যক্তি বলে মনে না হয়, তাহলেই সেটা প্রপার ড্রামাটিক মনোলগ হবে। So, what are the features of a dramatic monologue? There has to be a single speech by a single speaker. The speaker should be at a dramatic point or moment of his life. There must be silent listeners whose presence can be understood from the speech of the speaker. The speech should bring out the character of the speaker, and the poet and the speaker must not be identified as the same person. In My Last Duchess, we know the poet is Robert Browning, and who is the speaker? He is the Duke of Ferrara. So, we can never say that the Browning was the Duke, or Browning and Duke cannot be the same person. So, I hope you have understood what a dramatic monologue is. Moving on to the next slide. Now, we will see here we have the picture of Browning. See, Robert Browning is here. You know Robert Browning. He is known as the master of dramatic monologues, and this is a bit on the poem because it was first published, this poem. This is important for you ACQ type of questions. First published in Bells and Pomegranates 3 under dramatic lyrics in 1843 under the title Italy. So the original name of the poem was Italy, and then later it was changed to My Last Duchess. So we have this. So original name was Italy. This was the original name, and it was first published in Bells and Pomegranates 3 under dramatic lyrics in 1843. Later on it was also included in dramatic romances. And here who is the speaker? The speaker of the poem is the Duke. Who is the Duke? The Duke of Ferrara is the speaker. He is the single speaker giving out a single speech. Actually, you know, Duke of Ferrara, he married Lucrezia, as the background says, Lucrezia when she was only 14 years of age. And later she died when she was 17 years of age. So it was rumored that the Duke poisoned the lady, and he was instrumental in bringing about the death of his Duchess. So this is all about that. So he married Lucrezia. So who was the Duchess? My Last Duchess. The name, as far as we know, the name can be Lucrezia, supposed to be Lucrezia. So this is, we know. And now what is the situation? So Duke is the speaker. He is speaking about his last wife, last Duchess, who is supposedly Lucrezia, who has died. And now an envoy, a messenger has come. A messenger has come, and now Duke is speaking to him. The messenger has come, and the Duke has began negotiations for the hand of Barbara. So she is the lady to whom the Duke is about to marry. So a marriage proposal has come to the Duke for Barbara. Barbara is the second lady. And so, who is Barbara? Daughter of Ferdinand I. And Barbara is the niece of the Count of Tyrol. So now, the Duke's last wife, she has died. A messenger has come from the Count of Tyrol with a marriage proposal for the niece of the Count, whose name was Barbara, and Barbara was also the daughter of Ferdinand I. And now the Duke is speaking to that messenger and trying to tell him what are the features, what actually he wants in his would-be wife. And hence he draws the curtain to reveal the portrait of his last Duchess. He was showing the picture of his last Duchess to the messenger and trying to tell him how she was and trying to imply what he actually wants or expects, what he actually expects from his would-be wife. So this is the background of the poem. Now we can move on to the lines. So now let us move on to the lines. Now see, that's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. So the Duke tells the messenger, that's my last Duchess painted on the wall, the portrait of my Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. See the picture. See the painting of my Duchess. Though she is no more alive now, but she is looking as if she is alive. So the portrait is very lively, very realistic. And we understand that the Duke is a lover of art and painting. So he can appreciate the portrait, and he points to the messenger, that's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. She appears to be alive. I call that piece a wonder now. I call that piece a wonder now. Now is significant. I call that piece a wonder. That piece means which piece? Which piece? The portrait of the Duchess. I call that piece a wonder. Now that this painting has become a wonder, because now this shows that the Duchess is no more. She has died, and so this portrait cannot be duplicated. Hence it has become a wonder. So now it is a wonder because no one will ever now be able to duplicate or produce another portrait similar to this lifelike portrait of the Duchess. So I call that piece a wonder now. Fra Pandolf's hands worked busily a day. Fra Pandolf. Who was Fra Pandolf? The painter, Fra Pandolf. Fra Pandolf's hands worked busily a day. So it points out that the Duke engaged the painter Fra Pandolf to paint the portrait of his wife or the Duchess. So he worked throughout a day, and what is the result? The result is there she stands. This is the portrait. Now here, an important point that I would like to mention, as a dramatic monologue, the poem or the lines of the poem should bring out the character of the speaker. What character of the Duke is revealed here? Now mind it, the Duke said Fra Pandolf's hands worked busily a day. So the painter had to work very busily. Why he had to work so busily? Which points out that he was allowed only one day to complete the task, and so perhaps it was due to this that the painter had to work busily a day. This in turn points out the authoritative nature, the jealousy of the Duke, and his sense of extreme possessiveness. See, he was suspicious by nature. So he did not allow his wife to sit before the painter longer than a day. Okay, now moving on to the next slide. So, from these 4 lines, let us see what question you might expect or which question you can attempt. Why has the portrait become a wonder now? So, now the portrait has become a wonder because now the Duchess is dead, and hence the portrait is free from the privilege of duplication. This will be your answer. Now, from these first 4 lines, what are the character traits of the Duke that are revealed? Of course, first point is this, that the Duke's exquisite love for art and painting is shown, that we know, and his envy, his jealousy, his extreme possessiveness, that is also evident from the line when he said that he had asked the painter to finish the portrait in a day. The Duke did not allow the painter more than a day, perhaps because he feared that the Duchess might grow intimate with the painter if more time was allowed. Perhaps. So this also points out the suspicious nature of the Duke. Now the next lines. Here one more thing I'll point out, that is the curtain. The curtain the Duke will draw for this envoy. What does the curtain symbolize? The curtain symbolism, this one you can learn. Okay. It points out or it symbolizes physical barrier representing the Duke's power to grant or deny access. So the curtain actually shows that Duke feels that he has the sole proprietorship over the Duchess even when she is dead. So he has the sole power to grant access or deny access. So this physical barrier is symbolized by the curtain. Now, the next lines 5 to 13. Wilt please you sit and look at her? So the Duke tells the messenger, will you please sit and look at the portrait of my Duchess? I said, Fra Pandolf, by design. By design means intentionally. Intentionally, by design. I mentioned the name of the painter and I mentioned the name intentionally. Now, why he mentioned the name intentionally? That we will have to see. So, what the Duke says, I said Fra Pandolf by design. For never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance, but to myself they turned. What does this mean? Actually, what happened when the Duke told the messenger to sit and look at the picture to understand the beauty of the picture, and then the messenger turned his face towards the Duke and looked at him. This is the simple action. When the messenger looked at the Duke said, see, you are not the person to turn and ask me. Actually, the messenger did not ask anything, but the Duke felt that the messenger would like to ask. The Duke felt that there is an enquiring look in the eyes of the messenger. So he says, you are not the first one to look at the portrait and then turn towards me and ask me with an enquiring look. Anybody, whoever looked at the portrait of my last Duchess, they were awestruck by the depth and passion of the look of my Duchess. And all of them, each one of them turned towards me with an enquiring look, just the way you are turning towards me. So, you are not the first one to turn towards me with an enquiring look, but everybody, whoever looked at the portrait of my Duchess, turned towards me, and if they dared, they would ask me, how such a, means what enquiring look, what was the enquiry? How such a deep, unfathomable, earnest glance came to the eyes of the, can be seen in the eyes of the Duchess. How? So, whoever looked at the portrait of the Duchess always turned towards me, and if they dared, they would ask me, how such a glance is possible? How such a glance, how such a look, such earnest look could be seen in the eyes of the Duchess? So, you are not the first one to turn towards me and ask me thus. I hope it is clear. See, strangers like you that pictured countenance, countenance means face. All the strangers or strangers, whenever they looked at the face of the Duchess, they were wonderstruck by the depth and passion of the earnest glance of the Duchess, and they always turned towards me. They always turn towards me because I draw the curtain. Since none puts by the curtain, I have drawn for you. So, I draw the curtain because I have the sole proprietorship. This is what he means to say. And they seemed they would ask me if they durst. They dare not ask me, but it seemed they wanted to ask me. What? How such a glance came there? There means in the eyes of the Duchess. So, you are not the first one to turn towards me and ask me with such an enquiring look. So, why does the Duke mention, read it as does, the name of Fra Pandolf intentionally? See, he said, that I mentioned Fra Pandolf by design, means intentionally. So, why he mentioned the name of the painter intentionally? So, the answer would be, he mentioned the name of Fra Pandolf intentionally, maybe due to two reasons. Number one, perhaps he wanted to indicate that only such a great painter like Fra Pandolf can make a painting so realistic and so lively. Another reason can be, see, the word Fra comes from friar, which means monk. Monk means sadhu. So, maybe that the Duke engaged a monk intentionally to paint the picture or portrait of his wife, thereby avoiding any possibility of intimacy between his wife and the painter. Again, this points out the lurking jealousy, his authoritative nature, his aggressiveness, his possessiveness, his conservative attitude. Okay. Next lines. So, now from lines 14 to 21, if you can remember what he said in the previous line, that anybody who saw the portrait of the Duchess, they were wonderstruck by the passionate glance of the Duchess. Now, the Duke explains to the messenger and says, "Sir, it was not her husband's presence only. So, you might think that her passionate look was because I was present, because her husband was present. No, it was not because of her husband's presence only, that called that spot of joy into the Duchess's cheeks. So, Duchess was happy. So, there was a spot of joy in her face. But the Duke explains, don't mistake it. It was not because only of the presence of her husband. Maybe. Now, the Duke assumes, maybe, perhaps, Fra Pandolf, the painter, he might have said, chanced means happened. He might have said, he happened to say, her mantle laps means covers over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. So, it may be. So, the Duke assumes that it might have been the case that the painter who was making the portrait of the Duchess could have said that the mantle, see here the picture, the mantle is covering her wrist. So, the mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Maybe that the painter might have said to the lady that expose your wrist a bit more, it is covering your beautiful wrist. He might have said this, or the painter might have said that the beautiful rosy hue or color that suffuses, that can be seen on the face of the Duchess, is softly fading along her neck and throat. So, this simple compliments, he might have given any such simple compliments due to which the Duchess looked so happy and there was such an earnest glance, earnest look in the eyes of the Duchess. So, what the Duke means to say? The Duke means to say that the Duchess actually had no sense of dignity. The Duchess actually was very simple with no sense of royalty. Any simple compliment can bring that spot, could have brought that spot of joy on the face of the Duchess. So, don't be mistaken, the Duke says to the envoy or the messenger, don't be mistaken. Don't think that she was so happy because of her husband's presence only. No. The painter might have said to her that her mantle is covering her wrist too much, or he might have complimented her, saying that the beautiful red rosy hue on her face is gently fading towards her neck. Simple compliments like that was enough to bring that spot of joy, because my Duchess thought these are all courtesy. So, see, such stuff was courtesy, she thought. So, Duchess thought these are courtesy, but the Duke feels these are something below dignity. Simple compliment from a simple painter, from a mere painter, should not make a Duchess smile. This is what the Duke feels. So, here what characteristics of the Duke is revealed? We will see. Actually, you see, the Duke was speaking about his wife. He wanted to show that his wife was a lady without dignity, without sophistication, without discrimination. But in turn, what is revealed? It is revealed that the Duchess was a simple lady. She had childlike innocence, and the Duke was very authoritative. See, so here one more thing that I should point out, the difficult words and their meanings are written here also, you can see. Now, the Duke has used third person, if you have noted. It was not the presence of her husband alone. See, it was not the presence of her husband alone. Her husband's presence only. So, her husband, he could have said my presence, first person, but he used third person. So, what is the significance or importance of using this third person? Now, the use of third person actually points out the latent arrogance, the hidden arrogance, the latent arrogance or the hidden arrogance, the pride and the jealousy, the suppressed, the hidden jealousy within the Duke. And actually he feels that the Duchess had no sense of her dignified status. Ironically, however, the childlike simplicity, innocence of the Duchess is revealed. And the egotism of the Duke, his egotism, is too much egoistic, that is also revealed. So, innocence of the Duchess is shown or revealed, and the egotism, authoritative nature, power-hungry nature of the Duke, his sense of superiority, he has a sense of superiority, that is revealed. So, one of the basic characteristics of a dramatic monologue is what? That the character of the speaker should come out from the speech. Though the Duke is talking about his last Duchess, actually in every line the character of the speaker is clearly revealed to the readers. So, we have completed up to lines 21, and from 22 we can do it in the second part. So, learn the lines very well, go through the lines very well. I hope if you listen to the lines properly, you will not find any difficulty. See you next in the second part. Thank you. Enjoy the day.